Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Greyhound Bus Depot Property Land Use Covenant Community Meeting. We'll get started shortly. We'll allow a minute or two, make sure that everyone has a chance to join us and fix any technical issues they might be having. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded so that anyone that was not able to attend will be able to view the meeting at a later time when it's more convenient. So just please bear with us just a minute or two as we get started. And thank you for joining us this evening. Once again, for those of you just joining us, thank you for joining the Greyhound Bus Depot Land Use Covenant Community Meeting. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. This meeting is being recorded. And with that, I will turn it over to Zev.
Welcome, everyone. As James said, this is the Greyhound Bus Depot Property Land Use Covenant Community Meeting. My name is Zev Fellenbaum. I'm a geologist with Weber Hayes & Associates. We're the environmental consulting firm representing the Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District, who are the owners of the property. Also on this call are representatives from the California Department of Toxic Substance Control, Jovan and James, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Jovan Villamater. I am the DTSC Technical Project Manager. As the DTSC Project Manager, I provide regulatory oversight for environmental matters related to the project. I oversaw the 2010 site cleanup, and I have been involved in the latest sampling.
Thank you, Jovan. And my name is James Gambrell. I am the Department of Toxic Substances Control Public Participation Specialist, or DTSC for short. The DTSC falls under the State of California Environmental Protection Agency, and my role in the site is to ensure that we have great communication with public notices. I coordinate sending out community updates, which you may have received in the mail, and I also facilitate in-person and online meetings like this one. And with that, I will drop our information, our DTSC information in the chat and turn it back over to Zev.
Thanks, Jovan and James. So a little brief outline of what we'll be presenting in this presentation is first, I'll give a brief site description and history of the site. Then I'll present an environmental history of the site. And then we'll touch on the historic site cleanup that happened in 2010 that Jovan mentioned earlier. Then we'll talk about the existing land use covenant and then the proposed change to the land use covenant, and then an associated risk evaluation for that proposed change. Then we'll have, then I'll present conclusions and how to look up resources for more information. And then we will open up to you all for any questions and comments you may have. So the site is located at 425 Front Street in Santa Cruz, California. You might notice this figure on the right from the mailers or newspaper notices that you've seen. The site is this property outlined in blue that I'm pointing at with my laser pointer. It's a single 21,000 square foot parcel in downtown Santa Cruz in an area that's mostly commercial and high density residential land uses. As you may be able to see, it's currently under redevelopment as a part of a larger 5-parcel redevelopment to build a new downtown Santa Cruz metropolitan bus station. And a rendition of this new bus station, which will be multi-use and include housing and commercial uses. As a rendition is presented in the bottom left of this slide right here. The history of the property, based on historic documents such as fire insurance maps and phone directories, is that back in 1888 it was undeveloped. Then in 1905 it was a power transformer station, which the property just south was an electricity generator station. And the electricity that they generated would be transferred to the property, to transformers, and then distributed from that property. Then in 1928, it had commercial buildings. In 1950, it had furniture, paint, and used auto sales stores. Then from the 1960s to 2000s, it was a Greyhound bus terminal. In 2011, it was a overflow parking lot for the bus station, just adjacent south of the property. And then in 2024 and to currently, it's under redevelopment, and a picture of what it looks like right now you can see in the top right of this slide. And then now I'll just give a brief overview of all previous environmental investigations and cleanup activities that have been conducted at the site, which have been conducted beginning in 2002 all the way up until present day. From 2002 to 2010, multiple environmental investigations were conducted to fully characterize the any contamination that was on site. And the environmental investigations identified that that in soil, the contaminants of potential concern were total petroleum hydrocarbons, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, polychlorinated biphenyls, metals such as lead, aluminum, and iron, and then also cyanide. And these were likely from the historic site use, like the electricity transformer station, auto sales stores, paint stores, and then the long-term use of this property as a bus station.
I'm going to pause right there for a second just to make sure to see if we have any questions from the community. And I'm going to check the any raised hands and no questions in the Q&A. All right. Thank you, Zeb.
Thanks, James. Then in 2010, a remedial action plan was proposed and approved by the DTSC. This was to address the contamination in soil. And the remediation consisted of excavation and offsite disposal of the top 3 feet across the entire site. After excavation was completed, the site was capped with 3 feet of clean fill, including a surface finish of hardscape asphalt. This made it so that the deeper residual soil contamination that was left in place beneath the 3-foot clean cap was sealed beneath the cap, so that any people coming onto the property wouldn't prevented exposure for them. It prevented exposure to the contaminated soil that was sealed beneath the cap. A land use covenant deed restriction was recorded for the site, which documents remaining contamination at the site and imposes restrictions and rules on the future use of the property. So on this slide, there's two main pictures here. The main one is the cleanup. So you can see the site was dug down and then filled with clean imported fill. And then in the bottom right, there's a picture of what the completed cap with the asphalt hardscape look like. And then all this cleanup activities are detailed in the remedial action completion report in 2011. And near the end of this presentation, I'll explain how to access that report and any other environmental reports if you're curious. So when the land use covenant was written, it was written based on back in 2010, there was a multi-use bus station design. And that design was the only design that was evaluated. And so if another redevelopment design were to be considered, a reevaluation would be needed. The original 2010 multi-use bus station design, as described in the land use covenant, included, as you can see here in the bottom left of the slide, is a rendition of the plan, the original 2010 plan, but on the ground floor, there was commercial and bus terminals, on the second floor, parking, and then on the third and up floor, there were residences. So in the existing land use covenant, specifically in Article 4 of the existing land use covenant, it lays out the restrictions and rules for the property. And basically it says it prohibits raising of food, human hospital, school, or daycare on the property, and it prohibits residences on the ground or second floor of any building on the property. It also makes it so that any soil disturbance or cap disturbance must be properly managed and approved by the DTSC. And it ensures that the DTSC will always have access to the property. So now, fast forward to 2024, when the multi-use bus station development is actually kicking off, to include more below market rate apartments. The current 2024 design included residences on the second and upper levels. So this minor change made it so that on the ground floor, as you can see here in the bottom right of the slide, is a rendition of the current ongoing multi-use bus development. On the ground floor will be bus loading and commercial businesses, and then there will be residences above this blue line on the second and upper levels. To accommodate the updated design, we requested the land use covenant to be changed to allow for residences on the second floor. To accommodate the additional second floor residential units, so we're proposing to change the land use covenant to basically allow for residences on the second floor. Specifically, the only thing we are changing is 4.b of the existing land use covenant, which prohibits residential on the second floor. We've determined that this change would be protective of second floor residences, and I'll go into more of that in the following slides. But also, just for clarity, all other restrictions in the land use covenant would still remain in place. So to ensure that changing the land use restrictions to allow for residences on the second floor would be protective of second floor residences or residents, we completed additional confirmation soil vapor sampling. The sample results and a risk evaluation is provided in the 2024 soil vapor intrusion technical memo and land use covenant change request. And again, at the end of this presentation, I'll go in to how you would be able to access all these environmental reports and documents if you're so interested. So the DTSC Site Mitigation and Restoration Program approved that 2024 soil vapor technical memo and reviewed the risk evaluation in it and agreed that the site is safe for the public based on the current design and intended use of the new multi-use bus station, and it was appropriate to move forward with the request to revise the land use covenant to allow for residential land uses on the second floor of the development. Which brings us to the public notice process, which began on May 30th and included English and Spanish language newspaper postings and mailers, such as the ones on this slide, which you may have seen, and it's probably why you're here today. So the new development is currently happening on 5 former parcels, including the site, the property 425 Front Street. For ease of the new development, the parcels were combined and then split into 2 new parcels. And as such, the former 425 Front Street parcel are now part of 2 new bigger parcels. So to go more into that, basically on this assessor's parcel map in the bottom right of the slide, you can see the former Greyhound bus depot property, 425 Front Street, is outlined in blue. And now it is part of this one new City of Santa Cruz parcel, outlined in yellow, and then this other new Santa Cruz Metropolitan District parcel outlined in orange. Now, typically, we would just amend the existing land use covenant for 425 Front Street, but since the 425 Front Street parcel no longer exists, we need to, and is that the property is a part of the 2 new parcels, we need to issue 2 new land use covenants for the 2 new parcels, which contain the 425 Front Street property. The 2 new land use covenants will be placed on the new parcels before the old land use covenant is removed, such that there would not be a period of time when there was no restrictions on the property. So as a summary, the existing land use covenant was written with the 2010 redevelopment design in mind, and changing the land use restrictions to allow for more below market rate residences on the second floor would be protective of second floor residents. So I talked previously about different reports and environmental documents and historic environmental submittals. And if you're interested, how you can view them is on the State Department of Toxic Substance Control EnviroStore database. If you go to this URL here at the top of the slide, you'll come to this page. And in the search bar, if you put in Greyhound bus depot property, a drop-down menu, a drop-down will appear with the 425 Front Street site, the site we've been talking about. And then if you click on that, it will take you to this page, which has a full archive dating back all the way to 2002 of the whole environmental history of the site, including the remedial action plan that I mentioned, the remedial action completion report, the 2024 technical memo that proposed the land use covenant change, and then also the public notices that you may have gotten in the mail or seen in the paper. And then now I will open up to any questions and comments regarding the proposed land use covenant changes.
Thank you for that presentation, Zeb. Most excellent. I will check here to see if we have any raised hands or if we have any questions in the Q&A. We do not have any questions in the Q&A. We do not have any raised hands. And I think you've done such a great job that that we are at the end of the meeting. So let me take a moment to thank everyone for joining us this evening and taking the time out of your busy day. We really appreciate you being part of the public participation process and the land use covenant process. And we wish you a great evening and a happy rest of your week. Take care.